Hello, hello. Welcome to Pointed Logic Tarot. I don't think I've ever done an unboxing. I've obviously not done an unboxing video here. I might have done one on Instagram prior, but I just got this in the mail. I have about 15 minutes before my kiddo gets home, so I need to do this now if I'm going to do it before they go to bed. So this is my much awaited Rustic Roots Lenormand deck. I will link the creator's information, and hopefully there's a card in here to show you. I know the person's name is Melissa, but I don't remember the name, her shop name. But this is actually interesting. I ordered this ages ago, and then the package originally didn't arrive successfully, and it got bounced back to Canada. And then Melissa reached out to me to let me know, and we don't know what happened. But then she sent it again, and it made its way safely here as of today. Aw, it's so cute and tiny. Yeah, it's actually in like a hard box too. Usually with like small decks like this, you know, you typically expect a tough box, which this is an unpopular opinion, but I actually like tough boxes. I don't have a problem with two-piece boxes, but I also don't have a problem with tough boxes. Oh, very cute. Okay, Melissa Wotherspoon. It's like a little matchbox. Guidebook and poetry collection. This was a Kickstarter initially, and now it's available on Etsy as an indie publishing, or as an indie published deck. Here's the inside of the box. Here's the guidebook. The Kickstarter had Kickstarter members submit poems. So some of them are poems by Melissa, and some of them are Kickstarter backer poems, which is so cute. I love poetry, so I'm excited to give this a look. So you could open it either from the top or the bottom. I would say I think this is kind of fragile. You have to be careful with not crushing the outer box, but the actual box itself, once together, is fairly sturdy. And I know I think the coffin card in here is a matchbox, so it fits the rustic theme. I did not grow up in Canada, but I did grow up in Michigan with a lot of very similar elements to this, and I feel right at home. So that's why this is my first jump into Lenormand, and it's thanks to Logan at Larkin Legend for doing their like intro to Lenormand class or video series. So I'm excited to get going on this. It's very sturdy cardstock. Here's a title card. It shouldn't be a challenge to shuffle. Like, it has some flex. My apologies for the shaky camera. I don't know why it's being so shaky today. But we're gonna do a quick little flip through here. These are, I think, standard playing card size. I'll have to get out a deck of playing cards and compare. These have the playing card associations up there, and this will be my first experience with this system. But from what I understand, for the most part, the imagery does not have a ton of influence on the meaning of each card. I am eager to read the small little guidebook and see if it gives me, you know, what I need as far as, because it looks like for each one there's a poem, but then there's also sort of a little interpretation, or at least description, of the meaning of the card. So I'm looking forward to that. The background imagery looks like cork or particle board or something. It's textured. There's also sort of a texture over the top of the images as well. And it's a very limited color palette. Rider, Clover, Ship, House, tree, clouds. This one's interesting because the clouds aren't really the main focus of the image. Snake. Oh, it's a cute little garter snake. Coffin. Yep, here's the matchbox image. Burnt out matches. Bouquet. Scythe. Hockey skates. Oopsie. Whip. Birds. Child. Fox. Bear. Ooh, star. Interesting. This is the only one without this sort of cork background. Stork. Dog. I know that this dog is the cameo of Melissa's dog because I've seen that dog in some of her other decks, and I think there's the Low Rider Dachshund Tarot, also by Melissa Wotherspoon. Tower. This is a fire tower. You typically see these in the northern United States as well as in Canada. It's a watchtower kind of thing to watch for wildfires. Garden. Mountain. Crossroad. Mice. A mousetrap. You can see the mouse silhouette, and the full design is the mousetrap. Heart. Bleeding heart flowers. Ring is tree rings. Book is cabin stories. Letter. Okay, so we have one significator, man. Two significators, woman. And I believe there's some bonus significator cards. Lily. Sun. Moon. Key. Maple keys. These are the maple seeds. They're like little pinwheels, if you don't know maple trees. When they fall, they kind of twirl down. Fish. Anchor. Ha, it's your makeshift anchor for a floating dock. Cross. Person. And seeker. Okay, so these are unnumbered. So if the numbers matter to you, you could consider taking the man and woman cards and numbering them. But I think likely they are unnumbered because you're trying to remove gender entirely from them. Make them as neutral as possible. They're lovely. I think, I don't know a ton about Lenormand yet, but I actually will probably keep all of these cards in the deck for personal readings. And then if I read for somebody else, I'm not ready for that. But once I get to that point, then I would have them choose their significator out of all four. So let's give it a quick shuffle. I'm really excited for this, and I will certainly share my experience after working with it a little bit. Oh, these are quite stiff. They do hold the riffle, so you're going to have to bend them back a little bit. I'm surprised how stiff these are. So hopefully these break in a little bit with time. We'll see. They're not hard to shuffle because they're not a ton of cards and they're small, but I am surprised with the rigidity of these cards. I think they're probably pretty thick GSM. At least 330, maybe 350. Hopefully, though, yeah, I'll have to also just remember to bend them back. But once you bend them back, they look all right. I love the backs. If you look really closely, you'll notice that the sort of distressing is not quite reversible. But I think if you don't pay too close of attention, you wouldn't notice. And I don't think reverse cards are typically read in Lenormand anyway. So yeah, this is my first jump into this, and that's the Rustic Roots Lenormand. I'm looking forward to working with it. Okay, so it's actually the next day. I am filming a part 2 because I had a chance last night to read the guidebook of this deck. It's a pretty quick read. It's 80 pages, half poetry, half prose. And I wanted to talk about sort of some of the things that really struck me and talk about some of the cards that the guidebook has really informed the imagery of. This morning I took the deck with me when I took my cat to the vet just because I wanted something to look at and read in the waiting room. And I sadly already took a dent in the box, which is sad. This was just bouncing around in my pocket. But it's a hard box that protected the deck from my rough journey. I've got myself some cinnamon plum black tea here. It's a chilly day. Happy October. It's my skull mug. Okay. So, the first thing that's neat about the guidebook is there are keywords for all the cards. And they're pretty, I think, useful and expansive. And as expansive as Lenormand tends to be. There's also a nice explanation of the person and seeker cards and why they are included in the deck as far as inclusivity goes. So I think that's pretty nice. And in parentheses next to the name, there is the playing cards association as well, which I appreciate. So the poems are, like I said before, a mixture of authors. There are a couple authors I really liked. I think they're all pretty good. So it's quite a variety of poetry styles, poetry skill level, and angle that the poem takes on each card. So some of them sort of describe the meaning of the card. Some of them more describe the meaning of the word or the imagery. So like, for example, with Scythe, rather than talking about the meaning of the card or talking about, I guess it does a little bit, but more than talking about the word, it's talking about the imagery, which is the skates. So that's pretty enjoyable. Yeah, here's the Scythe card. So I will read this one as an example. And this one's by the author. So there are a few that the author wrote herself. The blade grazes across the surface, throwing waves of powdered ice into the air. The blade comes to an imperceptible stop. Then carve, 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 carve. He shoots. He scores. The other thing I love about this is that the imagery or the reasoning that the author has for why they chose that particular imagery is covered in the description here on the side. So I really enjoy that. It doesn't talk a ton about when you get this card, you can assume this about the reading or the querent or whatever. It's very much about the imagery in the card. And I really like that because, like I had mentioned earlier, it seems to me that Lenormand doesn't typically put a ton of weight behind the imagery, but I really like that the imagery here has quite a bit of intention behind it. An example of that is the heart card. So the author talks about why that they have in the heart card, they use the bleeding hearts. Sorry in advance as I look for the cards. So this is, its playing card association is the Jack of Heart. But the author talks about that they included a rabbit in the symbolism here because rabbit teaches us to be aware of our feelings, our intuition, and our surroundings. In this way, we can take advantage of opportunities. Being in tune like this allows us to come at decisions from a place of openness and love rather than fear and self-doubt. And then it also describes the imagery, which is these are bleeding heart flowers and a bunny looking at them. So I do really like that. Also helps me with some of the more challenging cards. So for me personally, Christian imagery is kind of challenging, but the author talks about her personal experience walking through a local, very old cemetery with bent over gravestones and just like an unkempt old space where she walks to try and remind those buried there that they're not forgotten. That kind of thing is really great. Let's see. What are some of the other images I wanted to talk about? The whip is one. The imagery is of a cattle whip, which the author takes care to note is a whip that the user does not hit the animals with and just uses it to make a sound and to control the direction the cattle are moving. Oh, I wanted to talk about the man, woman, person, and seeker cards. I wanted to talk about the tree ring card, the rider card, the mice card, the snake card. Okay, those are the main ones I want to talk about. We'll start with the man, woman's, person, and seeker cards. So the seeker and the person cards don't have a full write-up. They have an explanation in the keyword section, and then they have a poem for each. Very much so, they have, if you use these without the man and woman, this is your querent, the seeker, and this is a person in question that they might be seeking or that is important in their life. But again, I think that once you have the deck, you can utilize it however you see fit. So if you more prefer the person card as the querent, then go for that. These ones have a description of sort of like the man is the yang and out of yin and yang, and the woman is the yin. Although, am I getting that mixed up? No, I've got that right. And then interestingly, so they have the same author, L.K. Topler, and the pattern of the poems are the same. So the man one says, I embrace the masculine. He revels in strength. He is father, brother, friend, partner, and more. He is logical. He is heartfelt. He laughs and he cries. And on occasion, he enjoys some peace. Always he is within me. He is me. And the woman poem is, I embrace the feminine. She revels in freedom. She is mother, sister, friend, partner, and more. She is complicated. She is simple. She laughs and she cries. And on occasion, she enjoys the quiet. Always she is with me. She is me. So they sort of have a matching framework. I always have complicated feelings about masculine and feminine cards and just the stereotypes in our society that we associate with masculine and feminine, like the man is logical or whatever, you know, and I don't know. I feel like those could be features of people not tied to the stereotypes of gender. People are logical, people are illogical, people are emotional, people are spontaneous, people are cautious. You know, like, I think it's weird in these to also ascribe it to that. So I'm gonna do some thinking on how these fit for me. The one thing I will say is I really do like the imagery in this card. It reminds me of my partner. We both, again, the reason that this deck really resonates with me and why I chose this is because it's that northern, rustic, woodsy feel, how I grew up, and how my partner and I typically spend a lot of our time camping, and we wear a lot of flannel. We are, out in the snow or out and about doing activities. But yeah, so interesting. Okay. The rider card is depicting someone barrel racing. And the reason I wanted to bring this one up is because the person notes that they don't condone animals in sports. The author brings that up. But because they are always struck by the bond created between animals and humans, and the communication between a horse and a rider in a rodeo event like this is unparalleled. That's sort of why it was included. So that's an interesting one. This one is a sweet little garter snake, and the poem for this one is really quite cool. I am here only but to serve. Do not fear me. It is for your interest I look to. Do not condemn me. I may deceive, but only because I must. Do not hate me. I seek to offer only wisdom. Will you not trust me? And then the author speaks about how they've had snakes as pets and how that impacted friends visiting them, even though the snakes would be in their tank or whatever. She says, sadly, I think we are wired to equate hate with what we don't understand, but it is in things we don't understand that we learn our greatest lessons if we are receptive to them. What's interesting is that the meaning of snake is lies, secrecy, or caution and change. And I think caution is the meaning that the author kind of leans into in this. So I thought that was kind of cool and interesting. And then lastly, oh no, I have two more. Mice. It shows a mouse trap. And again, this author talks about, mice are cute. But they're included in the Lenormand deck for their gnawing, diminishing behavior. With a card background that evokes wood, I had to diverge from the classic mouse image, opting for a twist on the famous trap. I have not drawn all of the parts, so in reality it could never work. An assurance to mice everywhere that no mouse will ever be harmed in the using of this deck. Which is it's funny. A baitless trap unsnapped, teeming feet skittering, only a wall away, gnawing themselves free, to double in size, consume until nothing remains. And then this is the last one. This is really cool because the author describes, obviously it's a tree ring, but they describe how they chose to depict little mushrooms on the top to sort of depict jewels on a ring on your finger. And the poem for this one is beautiful. I am here, year after year, from one rainy season to another. My time, concentric to yours, marks our seasons together. Age will take us all, but with each slice I can promise you this. No lifetime can be worn on any one finger. My devotion to our growth is yours to measure. I think that my favorite authors of the poems in here would be L.K. Topler and Benja Nunam. My apologies for the mispronunciation of both of those names. But I really like their poetry style. All of the poems in here are worth a read because they do inform the sort of meanings, the intention behind the cards, and give you a variety of how folks might interpret these cards. I think that the most straightforward and easiest interpretations, though, are the keywords, and they seem classic to what I understand as far as Lenormand goes. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to do is I want to take all of the cards and I'm going to sort them into two piles. Based on the keywords in the front of this book and my understanding of the meanings of playing cards. I'm going to base the playing card interpretations that I'm using here with the Cartomancy and Folk Witchcraft book that I use. And I just want to sort them into a pile of ones where I think the meaning of the Lenormand card imagery, or like that name, and the meaning of the card as far as the playing card association aligns, and a pile where they don't align. And I just am curious to see how much alignment or distinction there is between the two systems. Who knows if this is actually a useful exercise or not. So I'll fast forward this bit. Now again, these two kind of have me stuck because the keywords aren't really keywords. There's just someone with feminine energy and someone with masculine energy. And I'm of the mind to argue that that's quite relative. But then if you look at the playing card meanings, we got the Ace of Spades and the Ace of Hearts. If you're going to go by stereotypical masculine, feminine, those would be swapped. Like this is a feminine, like new opportunities in the emotional realm. And this is new opportunities in the mental realm. But like, again, that feels weird. So I'm going to put them in the no pile. But I just wanted to pause and share that my frustration with masculine and feminine, especially in cards. Okay, so this is my does not match pile, and this is my matches pile. I would say about a third of the cards are the Lenormand reading or meanings are aligned with the playing card meanings. Again, this is my opinion and interpretation of these meanings. Some of these are a little bit more of a stretch than others. Some of them are really obvious. And then 2/3 of them didn't align with me, with playing card meanings. But there are many playing card systems, so you could, make an argument either way. Something else I want to elevate that I have noticed in my research on Lenormand is the spades and clubs are kind of reversed or like flipped in their meanings. Typically the clubs in Lenormand are more harsh than spades, and that's kind of the opposite in playing cards. So that kind of probably could influence the meanings. But it's not always the case. So like in the playing card system that I typically use, sevens of all suits are kind of challenging cards and harsh, like different from tarot again. But yeah, so that's my little addition to this video, my exploration and experiment, and just the initial start of my study of this deck and Lenormand in general. I will put a couple of my favorite resources down below that you might find helpful. There's a YouTuber named Georgina that does a lot of really good Lenormand readings and tutorials. And then, of course, I will also link Logan from Larkin Legend and their beginner, like introductory playlist. Those are both really great resources that have gotten me started. And I'm just gonna dig in and start trying my hand at these. I'm not gonna put them up immediately as an option on my Ko-fi shop because I only want to give you readings with systems I'm quite confident in. But if for some reason you want to have me incorporate a card or two, of course, feel free to include that in your message when you book a reading or commission a reading with me. I think I will also try and learn how to play the Game of Hope, which is what this whole like deck started out as and what the Grand Tableau is from. And if you are interested in me doing a video playing that and talking about it, let me know, and I will let me know in the comments, and I will include that as an upcoming video. But yeah, thank you so much. I will link where you can get this particular deck in the description below. It is lovely, it's high quality, it's durable, and it's rustic. It's really nice for the chillier half of the year, at least where I live. So thank you very much, and take care.